Hey folks, it's Sascha here for your slightly later than usual Writer Wednesday tip. And this time around, I want to talk to you guys about the back of the book blurb. Because I'm actually coming up with that right now. You may or may not know that I'm working on a project for Carina Press with the intention of them picking it up. And what it is, it's their paranormal call for submissions that is due by June 4th. They want any and all paranormal stories, but they want the first 3 chapters and a 5-page synopsis. Now personally, as an editor, I don't want to read that much bullshit. The first 3 chapters is fine, but the synopsis is what it is my point. So that being said, when I started to do this, the first 3 chapters came pretty easy. I chose a novel that I was kind of playing with in the back of my mind and thought would be this great thing that would end up in New York and have all this fanfare over, and I don't really know if that's the case or not, but point is, I was able to shift things around in the novel well enough to create a paranormal element. So I got the first 3 chapters knocked out. We're going over them again, and if you've seen my Instagram posts the last couple days, you've noticed that I put a lot of red on some of the photos, and it's because I've done a bunch of additions to some of the stuff where to fill in some gaps, where one of my beta readers is helping me polish this off. Because honestly, it needs to be due tomorrow and turned in tomorrow, this and the synopsis. Well anyway, the 5-page synopsis is really something authors struggle with, and I did too for a small period of time when I first started writing, and then I remembered I met Morgan Hawk, and I know I talk a lot about her, but a lot of the things that she's had me do to enhance my writing make things so much simpler. I'll share one of them with you guys. As a matter of fact, if you're on my Patreon page, then you already have seen the basic back of the book blurb plot, or what she calls what the story is about. And I'll find it real quick here and just summarize, because I've got it pulled up on a Patreon window anyway. I believe I do. Let's see. Yep, there it is. Okay, so the actual back of the book blurb, for example, because that is really what the story is about. When we get to, the crux of the matter, is that authors have a hard time with this. They struggle continuously, and I'm confused as to why, especially after doing it this way, because this way, granted, it's kind of more adventure geared, but it still fits in romance. And let's pull it up. Come on. There you go. Here's the method I use to create the back of the book blurb. Your protagonist pursues a goal. Your other protagonist pursues a goal. When something happens that throws them together, they pursue a new goal. But will they succeed while the antagonist provides opposition? Let me restate that. Your protagonist pursues a goal. Your other protagonist pursues a goal. When something happens that throws them together, they both pursue a new goal. But will they succeed while the antagonist provides opposition? Really, it's that simple. You shouldn't go over more than 125 to 150 words writing that back of the book blurb. Well, my first one was a disaster. I was trying to start the 5-page synopsis, and I always pull from that when it's required of me, the few times it has been, from something like a back of the book blurb. And when I do that, it becomes simplified, because all you're doing is taking that really short bit that is the very, very, very high points. Not quite the high concept, but close enough to where you get the emotional element, the plot element, the story elements, all in, like I said, maybe 250 words tops. Maybe 150 is a bit short. I don't know. It's been a while since I've looked at one that I've done. But anyway, all you're doing is, okay, for that back of the book blurb, main point of your story. This is why I was talking about it earlier in another video on this channel about knowing what your story is about. Remember, I pulled up that old post from Right Sex and talked to you about Margie Church's book, Razor, and how she said it was one thing, and I said not really. And I said that because it's not really what it's about. The story was about acceptance, not, I forget what she called it, but the point is when she knew that, this back of the book blurb, to be concise, was easy to write. We played around with a bunch of different variations until we finally came up with something satisfying. Well, anyway, I had this long, drawn-out 2.5 paragraph blurb that was way over 250 words from my back of the book blurb, because I thought, like I said, I'll start from here and go deeper on the larger one. Man, I gotta tell you, I'm looking at it right now, it reads like utter tripe. It's just awful. It's lengthy, it's more BS basically. And my Patreon subscribers, those who are contributing at least $1 or more a month, are actually able to see it. And they're getting to see the progression, which I just posted prior to this video going live and going up. The blurb is completely changed. It's much shorter, much more concise, gets right to the heart of the matter, tells you exactly what the story is. You know from reading the new blurb, or new version of the blurb I should say, it's paranormal romance. Well, it's paranormal first of all. Second of all, it's probably action adventure to some extent. You know who's involved, a hero and a heroine. You know why they're involved. You know who their opposition is, and what their problem is. And then you also know, because it's me, and I mentioned the last question at the end, and I'll reword this a little bit later on in the third draft, but you also know there's going to be a romance angle along with some sex. What changed in 24 hours? Did I give this more thought? Did I spend more time trying to come up with this better in the back of the book blurb? No, actually yesterday I spent all day fixing chapter 1 and 2 because my beta had some really great suggestions and I haven't been sleeping. Surprise there. Also, no caffeine in a few days. So, if I'm not spending time on the blurb, what am I doing? Well, when we looked at the chapters, and this is actually abnormal for me to work this way, this is backwards from how I normally work, realized that our goal, motivation, and conflict were not properly or fully developed. There it is, right there. That GMC. Get yourself a copy of this book. Keep it near you. I would have it near me had I a library in my office, but that's not to be right now. Goal, Motivation, and Conflict, The Building Blocks of Good Fiction by Deborah Dixon. She's a professional. She's a very sweet person. I see her every year at DragonCon. She's a wealth of knowledge. She wrote this book to help with authors who struggle with storytelling, because a lot of us have great ideas, and the problem is its execution is almost always poor without having an understanding of this. So she's got a chart you fill out. It's internal, external, all that wonderful thing, and I put that into Scrivener and use that when I'm building characters, and not just going off of an idea that woke me up at 8 in the morning, an ungodly hour. And that is ungodly for those of you wondering, because I get up at 11, I go to bed at 3. When I went to bed last night, it was 4:30. I quit working at about 10 till 4. So, but anyway, this will actually simplify your back of the book blurb. It will simplify your 5-page synopsis. It will simplify your 2-page synopsis, because all you're doing is adding more of the important elements in there, but you're starting off with, in the short, tight one, the most important thing that happens, or needs to happen, or be conveyed to both characters, depending on the length of the story. If it's a 2-page synopsis or 1-page synopsis, then you add an element or two from that thing, and you just pick the ones that, again, next most important, next most important, next most important, and that is how you add length to your synopsis while keeping it tight. Now, after, of course, you've written the first couple drafts, then you want to go in and change the words and run it by some people who have time for you, your beta readers basically, and ask if two things. Does it make sense and convey all the elements for the call of submission? Obviously they can't know because they're not the editor in question, but they can give you a good educated guess. Second thing, especially if you're writing romance, is the actual romantic plot and character growth and development defined? It should be. And again, that comes from your character arc, and we'll cover that in a later video. I don't use that so much. I kind of write a little more organic, and I need to stop that just because I never really got a full grasp of the plot character map. I use it all the time, but I've broken away from so many of my older habits to try to do new things and do different things that I've thrown away a lot of things. So there's that. Anyway, that's your tip of the week. I'm going to get back to my 5-page synopsis. I need it done today, at least in a draft form. I've got things going on this evening, cigars to smoke, and I'm going to get back to reading this. But again, I'll have this as the book cover for the thing, as you guys will see. I don't know why I'm telling you this, because it's going to be there. Anyway, if you appreciate, like the tip, like, subscribe, share, tell your friends, tell your coworkers, tell your boss, I don't care, tell somebody. And until next week, cheers.